I know all these songs while I was growing up, super diehard romantic. How fast they were moving, yeah? One line of one song, one line of one song. I was like, oh God, this mashup is like a speedy mashup. Alright, Saubana, super duper, welcome. Hello everybody who's in the room. Sonali Malik, if you're listening to me, please pick up my phone after this Insta live. We need to talk. I'm going for my cousin's wedding and I haven't even decided my clothes. So I'm trying to get my cousin's attention here. Life coach Rashmi, hello. Varsha, hello. Oh, she's asking a question. Okay, let's move into questions. Today's Insta Live is just 30 minutes because I need to run. I haven't started packing. I have a wedding to attend and I haven't done anything. Yesterday, maybe a lot of you who follow me here know that I had a big event. I had almost over 108 ladies coming in from London, Dubai, Singapore, all over India. And it was fabulous to, when you do so much hard work for 8 to 10 weeks on Zoom, when you meet that person for the first time, you're actually not meeting them for the first time. You feel like you know their soul. So yes, it was literally like a soul sisterhood connection that I truly felt in the room, and it was so fabulous. If you were in the room, please tell me in 1 or 2 or 3 words, what was your experience like if by chance you're also watching this. All right, till the meantime, 30 minutes today, it's 5:03. We will close at 5:30. Apologies in advance, but let's answer as many questions as I can, okay? So Varsha's asking, I started to have a crush on a guy and I'm wasting a lot of time waiting for his messages. I don't even know if he's a good person because I put people on a pedestal without analyzing any suggestions. Varsha, I have so much suggestion for you, okay, darling? I mean, I'm literally going to just treat you like my daughter here and give you advice if you were my daughter, because I feel like too many of us women are doing things like this. So 2-3 things. First thing, you are allowed to like any boy you like, but the deal breaker is if he does not respond at the level that you are making the effort, that's a deal breaker. So the only reason you do not choose to continue to like him is because he does not value you at the level that you value him. That's point number 1. So you can give him if you want 3 months to understand, does he respond or not? Is he answering your messages or not? Is he sending you the good morning and the good night? And if you see a guy not sending you a good morning, good night and not constantly being in touch, then you should know either he has other options or he's just not that into you. Okay, that's one. Secondly, always go for character over personality. Now, what do I mean by that? The first couple of months when we are getting to know someone, we are not able to see through. God puts blinders on our eyes and we see only what we choose to see. So we are seeing the fancy car, we are seeing the body, we are seeing the attractiveness, we are seeing that laugh, we are seeing what we choose to see because God wants evolution to happen. So He purposefully makes us slightly blind so that there is mating happening across the world, right? Now, unfortunately, by the time that whole oxytocin or the body's love chemicals settle, we start to then see in that boy things that we had not seen up until that point. And that's where character lives. So you realize he's driving a Ferrari, but he's very rude to the waiter. You realize that sometimes he chooses to lie to his mother in front of you by saying, I'm in the gym while he's with you. And these are all small yellow flags for you to note that, this is not a green flag guy, which our mind cannot see for the first couple of months because we do land up putting people on the pedestal, which is so right. That's why all decisions of dating should cross that first period of love chemicals settling. Once you start to get to know the person, make a list of all that you want in the man that you want to attract. And then you need to go deeper and see, which are personality traits, which are character traits. Now, personality traits is normally how we choose a person. But if we started to choose people on character rather than personality, we would have so many more solid relationships than this yo-yo that continuously keeps going on. Yes? All right. So, Varsha, this is what I want you to follow, darling. The first 90 days, the guy has to prove to you that your love is worthy of that man, okay? Because you're going to pour love. When women love, we love fully, completely, wholly, right? And to pour that love into something that is a broken vessel is only going to waste away the energy you so beautifully have and leave somebody else deprived who's actually more deserving of it. So Varsha, the man needs to up his game to match your level of expectations for him to receive the love that you're ready to give. And if he doesn't know how to receive, if the vessel, you are a freaking rain pour and he's standing with a shooter glass, that's never going to be a match, right? So when you are a rain pour, you need that level of vessel to match it so that the other person can receive you. I am like that kind of person who can truly love. And fortunately, I always tell Puneet, I say, Puneet, it's not that I can truly love, it's that you receive so beautifully that you encourage this love of mine. And I think when a woman gets a safe space to love wholly and completely without having to play games or look at the drama that the man is bringing or, all of the ego that comes along, that's when women start to shrink. And one or two such experiences of mistrust and the woman shuts down completely. So Varsha, if you can start to now look at the situation more like every time I want to date someone, first they have to pass my 90-day test and create a 90-day test. Does he message back on time? Does he do all that I need him to do? I'm not saying he will not have any bad qualities, but I'm saying the first 90 days, if the man is not trying hard enough. I remember a teacher, dating teacher, teaching this to the ladies that don't sleep with the guy for the first 90 days. Let him earn it. Today, because of the Tinder world, in 30 days, you don't sleep with the guys move to the next girl because what he's looking for, you're not giving. So high value women have to learn to filter out all the low value men quickly so that they know that they're not getting used by various people. I know you're getting the point, so see what out of this works for you, Meri Jaan. Stop putting people on a pedestal. Stop putting them in the pit either. Keep them in your hearts. Let the person reveal themselves to you. And pray to God that God show me who he really is. If he's a nice guy, show me that. If he's not a nice guy, quickly please also show me that. Lovely, fabulous. Harita Singh, always wonderful to see you with an electrifying smile. That's so sweet. Reshma is asking, how are you, ma'am? Awesome. Ma'am, how to attract love in our life? So sweet. Happy Soul 123. Firstly, I love your name, Happy Soul 123. I think the other day I was reading this somewhere and I found it very interesting actually. What this person did was they wrote out a list of everything they want in a guy. And then they pretended to be the guy and wrote out a list of everything this kind of guy will want in his girl. Okay? And this lady who was saying that to me, I didn't read it actually, somebody was saying that. She said, you know what, I used to be the kind of girl who used to love going to the bars, but the kind of guy I wanted wouldn't want a girl from a bar. And so then I changed my idea of who I want to be because of the kind of guy I wanted to attract. And then after I made the list of the kind of girl a man like that would want, I started to become more of that. And how she attracted the man of his life, man of her life is what she was telling. So see how you can use that. I think putting it on paper is one of the most beautiful ways to manifest love in your life. Precious mom, I treat my husband's relatives well, but my in-laws don't treat my parents well. What to do? So precious mom, a few things I need you to understand here, okay? 1, you treat your husband's relatives well because you love your husband, okay? Your husband's parents are adults who he has no control over, okay? Understand this. Your husband's parents are adults who he has no control over. How does he treat your parents? If he is treating your parents well, how his parents treat is not your responsibility, not his responsibility. Warn your parents, be careful, they are this type. Okay? Now, if you want your parents to be treated well, okay, then there will be unnecessary hangama. The deal of marriage should be between husband and wife and what they do with one another, not between how in-laws treat each other. Somehow in the Indian patriarchal system, the boys' parents think of themselves as these superior beings from heaven. Okay? And unfortunately, this idea has been fed so much in our culture that it's not yet left us, even though it's been quite redundant for a while now. Okay, so I want you to love his parents and the relatives and everyone else because you love your husband. Okay, and the equation is between you and your husband. He loves his parents, you love them because you love him. Okay, if they don't have the maturity to understand that in treating your parents well, they will get their son more. They will be able to help their own son if they are not able to understand that, and they think by acting smart with your parents they are achieving anything through you or at you. That's all immature behavior. Once you realize that you did not win the lottery of in-laws, better to step back, because what we land up doing a lot of times, and which is where I'm more concerned and more worried, is we ruin what we have very special with our own spouse over some other adult that he has no control over, but we start to bring in all of that toxicity into the relationship. So we talk about the people we hate most all the time with the people who we love most. Can I tell you, if once you have grown up children, if you don't already have them, you will realize you cannot even control your own children. Where are you going to control your parents? That's just a false expectation. So now whenever a girl is getting married, I sit her down and I'm like, you know what? In-laws is a lottery. Firstly, understand that. In-laws is a lottery. Most of us do not win the lottery no matter how many tickets we buy, correct? Now those who win the lottery, we compare our in-laws with those people. Wrong. Because we cannot compare with the one who won the lottery, because one wins out of so many. What is happening to the majority? Majority, they have value conflict, which means the family I come from versus the family I go into mostly will not have a value match. Once you start to understand all of this whole picture, then what you should do is try to keep everything cordial. Love them to the extent that you love your man, and tell your man to compensate for all their misbehavior to you directly. Which means, sweetheart, today your parents are coming, so I will make 16 dishes for them. But tomorrow there will be no dinner made and you will take me out to my favorite restaurant because I would have overdone for your parents. When he can balm the wounds that they create, you will start to have a very beautiful relationship. I remember in my first year of marriage, I fortunately won the lottery of in-laws, sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, all of the in-laws category. But having said that, in the beginning, there's always conflict because of the value system match that is not there in the beginning. Eventually, you become a mix of the family you came from and the family you are in. And so in my first year, I remember having all of these thoughts that, you know what, I need to tell him this and I need to tell him that. But I realized that every time I hurt Puneet over his family, even though at that point he wouldn't say anything because he may know I'm right, but later on I would see that he would also hurt me back in some ways or the other. You cannot hurt someone and not get that back because you are the one who's put the acid first in the plant. Now if you put the acid first in the plant, please know it will stink. It cannot create perfume. So I banned myself for 1 year for not talking against anybody from his family. What is this need of mine to put others down to feel better about myself? I said I have to work on this need of mine. Where is this coming from? And I know that within a couple of months of me changing myself, our marriage improved so much. And what truly matters is your man. Not his parents, not his relatives, not his Durke relatives, who we give so much importance to. Hai na? Oh, so sweet. Aishwarya Sharma is saying, you're such an inspiration for all of us women. That's so sweet. Ujjwal is saying, thank you so much for the wonderful connection. Nitya is saying, it was just amazing and a dream come true moment for me. So happy to meet you yesterday, Nitya. Love you, Pooja. Love your energy. Thank you. I love the way you said Varsha as your daughter. Clearly, I don't have one, na, so मैं सबकी बेटियां चुराते रहती हूँ. Rupali Gupta, no guy of that age knows how to value a woman. He values a woman only after being with her for more than 10 years and sees her effort and pure heart. Rupali, that may be your experience, but that's not mine. I think men, when strong, amazing women raise boys, boys know how to treat women. Okay, when they see their fathers, the number one gift a father can give to their child is to treat their mother well. And when someone has seen their mother being treated well, the mother getting respect, the mother getting that order in the house, I can tell you those boys are fabulous with their women. Divya, I have a 1-month-old baby, sleepless nights and zero self-care. How to deal with so much transition and unpredictability? I just crave for some me time, but it makes me feel selfish by everyone around me for doing so. Divya, you're so absolutely bang on. I mean, a 1-month-old baby can totally drive you crazy physically. You're going through so much emotionally. You have to be so kind to yourself, sweetheart. For all you know, some of us, we go through full postpartum depression without even realizing that we've had depression. So when you're going through all of this transition, see if you can keep a journal and just be very kind to yourself, okay? Which means it's okay to prioritize yourself for 2 hours of the day so that you can give better 22 hours. It's okay to prioritize yourself for 4 hours so that you can be a better mother for 20 hours. It's okay to ask for help, whether it's your mother-in-law, your mother, or some staff. I literally believe that there should be orientation of mothers, of pregnant women, where they must learn not only that you will love the child, that will happen naturally. That you will forget to love yourself is where the issue will lie. So learning to create that, yin yang between the child and you, that yes, I remember when I used to go for baths, sometime I used to be guilty because I used to be like, oh God, my child will be alone outside for 15 minutes. He's fast asleep. He doesn't even know you've gone for bath most of the time. You surround him with pillows and he's 1 month old. He can barely move. There's nothing to worry. But yes, our guilt as a mother is something God gave us because He was going to give us the most precious thing we are ever going to hold in our arms, right? So God purposely put shame, guilt, all of these emotions so that the mother remained loyal or useful to the child. However, having said that, today we don't live in a world where we are a one-man army. We are surrounded with help if we choose to. So I want you to today make a list, Rupali, of who is it that you can ask for help and see what can you barter with them so that there is enough help for you, and how can you get your husband to contribute, mother-in-law to contribute, mother to contribute. The more help you take, the easier the journey will be. I love how the theme today is love and marriage. Monica Jain, how to overcome infidelity in marriage? Monica, this is such a complicated question that to answer it in 1 or 2 sentences is just unfair. However, I will say this, that infidelity, it all firstly depends on the kind of infidelity. So what do I mean by the kind of infidelity? There is one infidelity where the man is not guilty. He's like, deal with it. That's who I am. Those are the kind of men who need to be left. Okay. Then there is an infidelity where he's landed up cheating on you, but he's very regretful and very apologetic. To such a man, he has to learn to earn the trust back. Forgiveness is a 1-minute thing which you can do, but the trust that has gotten broken, that takes years to build back. And if the man doesn't have the dedication to earn you back, then you're going to constantly live in that state of wondering what happened, how much happened, where all it happened. It's literally the death of the relationship and you're recreating. Esther Perel says it so beautifully. She said, these days we have new relationships with the same man. And sometimes when you've gone through severe infidelity, you're literally creating a new relationship, however, with the same man. Having said all of that, you have to really be kind to yourself also in the process, because a lot of times I'm seeing women who start to blame themselves. If only I was thinner, if only I was prettier, if only I had looked after myself, if only I had, while it's great to introspect and improve whoever you are, you have to be always very careful that infidelity is a choice the man makes. Okay, it is not, instead of working on the relationship that he was in, he chose to leave that relationship and go outside. So you have to also remember all of these things. So if you want more information on all of this, please watch Esther Perel. She's a great counselor, especially for this topic called infidelity, because I think the man has to put in a lot of effort to become radically honest with you. For a while, I remember at one point, I was watching a reel, I think, where they said, if you don't know the password on his phone, if he's cheated on you and you don't know the password on his phone, he has no interest in getting you back. Because a man who wants to get his wife back needs to give you his phone and say, sweetheart, anytime you can access any WhatsApp message of mine, anything of mine. the couples that have access to each other's phones are far more loyal to each other than the ones who say, but I need my privacy. When you got married, you literally signed the contract of giving away your privacy. Privacy is not a requirement in a marriage, rather radical honesty is. So I'm a much big believer of radical honesty than I am of privacy, right? So you will have to see how to overcome infidelity. You can only overcome it if he stopped doing it. If he's still continuing to do it, it's like having a wound that is being scratched every day and now you're saying, how do I repair this? It's unrepairable. Okay, so a lot of times that's the big problem. Now, if he's already over and he's asking you, you should heal, you're stuck on that topic, you only keep picking up that topic, I want you to be so aware that, you know what, you've gone through trauma. When someone cheats on us, you go through what we call trauma. And when you go through that trauma, you have, every time you're having a good moment with your man, the memory of the anxiety of the past comes and you ruin the goodness of what he's trying to create because the trauma hits you at that point, because you know the last time you felt good, what happened to you. Right? So your body has started to live in the memory, and the only way to heal is when the man totally and truly allows you to speak about that topic as many times till it leaves you. So it's literally like pouring out of a massive jar, and you have to keep pouring out, and every time you're pouring out, you're releasing. If he starts to get irritated with you, or if he starts to get upset with you because you're pouring out, he has to learn that, you know what, if he doesn't allow you to heal, that trauma is going to live inside of you. A lot of us, yes, at some point, I would like you to tell yourself, you know what, I don't want to talk about that any longer. I'm going to do from my side whatever it takes to heal from it. But he cannot stop you because he is the perpetrator of that wound. So he cannot be the decision maker of at which point you heal. Some people take 2 months, some people take 6 months, and some people take years. And we have to give ourselves permission sometimes to go for years before we can heal from something, depending on the extremity of the situation. Okay, let's go right to the bottom. Tarot healer Kavita Agarwal is saying how to stop procrastination. So Kavita, I feel like procrastination is one of those demonized words on this planet now, where productivity and productivity is given too much importance, and procrastination is being treated like this big, scary, horrible thing. Now, I think we have to understand procrastination a little better, which means our job is to learn to prioritize what is important and to postpone whatever is not. And anything we postpone, we start to call it procrastination. If it becomes important enough, or if it becomes urgent enough, the chances are you will do it. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are a mother. Can I ask you, if you are a procrastinator, have you in the 5 years of having this baby or 10 years of having this baby, missed a single day of feeding this child? Oh my God, कल तो मैं उसको नाश्ता, lunch, dinner ही खिलाना भूल गई. How come not? How come you haven't procrastinated? Because what is important doesn't get procrastinated. Okay. Now the problem sometimes is we think something should be important to us. Okay. A should does not come in the list of procrastination. It is your why that decides on what are the things you will do in a day. For some people, their health is their value system's highest value. For some people, their relationships matter most. For some people, their career and money is their number one thing that, if I have money, I can handle everything else. And different people have a different list of value systems. What is on top in your value system will always get priority. And what is not on top is what you'll keep saying, you keep procrastinating. For example, for me, going to exercise is the least of my priorities. I love my work. I love my family. I will never neglect the children, the house, the husband, the money, the business, because this is all in my value system. Then what gets neglected? Me, right? So my exercise, my weight loss plan, whatever my personal things are, they'll get neglected. Now I understand that, in my list of priority, this is in the bottom. So if I can attach it in some way to something that matters most. Recently, my son told me that, Mom, when I'm 60 or 50, 60, 70, when I am 50, 60, 70, I still want you to come on holidays with us. I still want you to hike with us. I still want you to be the kind of mother who's the best grandmother who can run after the grandchildren. I don't want you to be one of those aunties who goes, मैं यहाँ बैठी हूँ, तुम लोग होके आ जाओ. And it was such a sweet thing for him to say that it mattered so much to him that I should be a participant in his family life, that I really I was like, I don't know about anything else, but mobility is something I must value. So I started to do these very cute exercises while I'm meditating, while I'm writing my gratitude. I'll sit in a certain way. I also read that longevity depends a lot on the thigh muscle of yours. Those people who have strong thigh muscles have a longer life. Why? Because when you have strong thigh muscles, when you grow old, you actually tend to have a better social life because you're still mobile, right? So like that, I'd love for you to make a list of what are the things that matter to you and what are the shoulds of your life. And when you procrastinate on your should, stop beating yourself up with the hammer. Rather value yourself for the person that you are, for the things that you do that nobody else can. Okay? Now, there are a lot of people who can do a few of the things, but there are some things only I can do, and I must value that. Our focus, we will have 22 things to do. We will accomplish 15 of them, and the 7 that we don't do, our mind will keep saying, but I didn't do the 7, but I didn't do the 7, but I didn't do the 7. You are fully allowed to live life in a manner where you're allowed to shift your 7 into the next day, and then into the next day. And I normally, when I write something out, and I've not done it for 3 days in a row, if I couldn't do it in 72 hours, it's not important enough, I cut it out. Or I put it for the next month कि यार ये तो एक wish है. ये wishes का time नहीं है इस महीने मेरे पास. Right? So learning to manage your procrastination rather than calling yourself a procrastinator, my suggestion is instead start to call yourself that whatever is important gets done by me. Say this to yourself every day, and you'll start to see that your accomplishments will be more energetic. Because the more we curse ourselves, the lesser energy we have for the things that matter. Because you're all the time thinking about the things that actually don't matter. Okay? You think they matter, you feel they should matter. Of course, exercise should matter to me. Of course. But it doesn't, okay? And why doesn't? Because I come from a house where everyone's lived a long life without having to worry too much about health. Now, I'm married into a family where they lost their father to a disease. So, here the value system for health is so extreme that और कुछ करो ना करो, health का तो बहुत ज़्यादा ख्याल रखते हैं. I mean, my mother-in-law, my husband and all are top class, health oriented people, right? So, can you see the difference? I feel like we have to stop being so harsh on ourselves. So, from today onwards, for every single one of you in this room, replace the word procrastination with prioritizing. That, you know what, I am a prioritizer. I know what are the most important 2-3 things that I need to do in the day. And the rest, if they happen, great. And if they don't happen, I am not going to judge myself for it. And when we learn to stop judging ourselves, that's when we learn to start loving ourselves. And it's only when you love yourself that you operate from a very different energy in the world. Then from the energy of fear, you move into the energy of love. And the energy of love creates a beautiful manifesting destiny rather than the energy of fear that constantly keeps bringing more things to be fearful of. Beauty, hi, Beauts Priya, hi, I want to get rid of my mother-in-law's authority and dominance on everyone. Priya, I wish it was that easy, but unfortunately it's not. Firstly, this lady may be at least 20 to 30 years older to you. You've come into her house. This is her family. This is how she's done things for the last 20 to 30 years. How will a chutku little girl like you try to manage and compete with a woman as strong and as long as she's had, the period of time that she's had this kind of control? So I think more than you trying to get rid of her authority and dominance on everyone, see if you can just reduce the authority and dominance that she has on you. Okay? So what you want to do for yourself, you do for yourself. How she controls other people, don't try to control, because she's done it for a lot of years and everyone around her is comfortable with that domination. Jasmine, ma'am, have you heard about Ho'oponopono? Ho'oponopono, how do you pronounce it? Do you believe in it? How can you practice it for different reasons? I'm a big fan of Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono. I'm not the best one to pronounce it. It's a Hawaiian tradition where you use those 4 sentences, which are, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry. And you keep on repeating it and repeating it and repeating it till you can release or forgive other people or judgments, or in any way cut cords with whatever is creating toxicity in your life. I think it's a beautiful activity. It's worth watching YouTube videos on it, and if you can do it every night, literally like a ritual, or every morning, or whatever time of the day suits you, I think it's a wonderful thing to do, because it kind of detaches you from the worldly cords and dramas that keep coming into our life for the kind of people we have sometimes. Yeah. Sharos, how to ignore toxic people who are always chasing us to show their presence. Literally, by the word you used, ignore. What is the meaning of ignore? That you will not give energy to. If someone has the capacity to irritate you, anger you, trouble you, upset you, irritate you, then what you're not doing is ignore, right? Ignorance is when you focus on your inner world rather than their outer world. So what can you do to make sure that all the time the focus remains on your inner, not their outer? Then you have to first become that kind of person who has that level of maturity to know that everyone should be allowed to act the way they want. You know, when people did not get attention in their childhood in the right way, they got used to creating a coping mechanism called attention seeking, right? And if this person is all the time trying to seek attention, it is a coping mechanism that got created in childhood. Once you start to understand the source of someone's behavior, the behavior then doesn't remain that important, because you become understanding of the source. Anytime someone has the capacity to trouble you, all you need to do is create a new story around that person that can settle your insides. The story doesn't have to even sometimes be true, because you may not even know what actually happened in their childhood. But if you can, it's anyway you are in an imaginary situation, in an if situation, right? You're thinking they behave badly to get attention. Maybe it's not attention at all. Maybe this is the only way they had to behave to get basic food. Maybe this is the only way they had to behave for them to get the attention of the girl that they were in love with at that point. I don't know. So see if you can create a story that settles you. Anything that brings you back to peace is worthy of you keeping as a thought. Oh, already 5:34. Looks like I'm going to have to run. Joe Vitale introduced it. Yes, absolutely. It was actually by this psychiatrist who had taken over a ward, a criminal ward where people were hurting one another, and it was supposed to be like a madhouse. And he took the files and did Ho'oponopono on these people for months without ever meeting them, and eventually the ward was shut because he was able to cure, the psychiatrist was able to cure everyone in that ward without ever meeting them, just with this exercise on their files. So it was pretty cool. Hubby is very inconsistent towards me. At times he's very loving and understanding, and at times he's super rude and mean and doubtful of every intention, giving me shock by his rudeness at times. Yeah. And Amita, what happens is that whenever someone is not dependable and they are so inconsistent, you stop enjoying their loving times also, because you know that once you open your heart up to the loving times, then they'll take a khanjar and poke you at that point. So you start to retreat from people like that. My suggestion would be sit down with him and start to have a conversation around how he can manage his rudeness better. Okay, or what can you do at that time for him to feel supported so that he doesn't get as rude as he gets, right? So in times of peace, I love to create solutions around the problems that our marriage has. So let's say Puneet has a certain way of doing something that's upsetting me. then I'll go and tell him that, look, this is what's upsetting me. Let's sit down and see how can I support you to make sure that this behavior doesn't get repeated, and is there anything I am doing to trigger that behavior in you. And just being very, very understanding, and maybe sometimes even realizing that, you know what, this person is not in their control, that for them they haven't learned the art of being able to respond rather than react. So he's always reacting. He's reacting in his goodness when he's overly loving, he's reacting in his badness when he's overly rude. In both ways, he hasn't yet matured emotionally enough for him to be able to handle the emotions, and sometimes it takes a lot more than just decision making to be able to reach that maturity. It's not that he'll say, okay, I won't be rude from today, and he stops being rude. No, because there is a trigger and a pattern that he has to break that is right now cemented in his mind. So for him, he knows this is what will happen, this is how it will happen, this is how I will shout and scream, this is where people will respond to me, because if I don't shout and scream, they don't listen. Let's say that's the cement glue in his brain right now. So to break that pattern, you have to break it from the source. So you have to go into like what's happening there. Okay, when next time I do like this, how do you want me to act? How will you act then? What can you do for response? I remember I used to get very upset and very angry, and there came a time where every time I would start to see my emotions rising and see myself going through that quiver of knowing that I'm getting super angry, I would go lock myself in the bathroom. And I would just cry. I would just cry and release my anger, because I knew I could be very nasty when I get into that Kali mode. So I don't want to say things and then later on apologize, even though I'll be right, because I didn't know how to handle my emotions. So I'll just go into the bathroom, cry it out, come out sober, and then say, okay, come, let's deal with it maturely. And that was one of the things I learned. I remember learning breathing techniques. I remember counting from 10 backwards. Remember doing all these things very purposefully to become a more sane person, so that the world can deal with me better, because otherwise I was just like an atom bomb, right? So each one of us needs to work with our personality, same way your husband and you need to sit down and discuss, have these conversations around how can we break the patterns that are not serving us, because anytime a man will not give the woman a safe space, she will go into her cave, and if she goes into her cave long enough, she will choose not to come out. So that means she'll keep begging you to want to love you, and a day will come when she'll become indifferent, and then you will chase her. Okay, what happened to that beautiful woman that I married? And even if she wants to, she won't be able to do anything, because she has been depleted of all that she carried for you. Oh, that's so sweet, Gayatri. I learned a lot about relationships through your RC course, my relationship certification course, and I feel so relaxed now. That's such a beautiful testimonial. Thank you so much. Oh, Trish is like, Pooja, how many members were there in your in-laws when you got married? Were you expected to take care of all? Trish, I live in a joint family till today of 13 of us, and when I got married, basically Puneet had two brothers. My in-laws used to live in London, so I didn't have so many people. My husband being the eldest, of course, it was his responsibility to take care of everybody. So yeah, the responsibility automatically came on me. I don't think it was an expectation as such. I think it was more like an automatic to be done kind of a thing. I think I failed quite miserably the first couple of years, because I came from a very nuclear family and didn't really understand the setup of how a joint family works. But today I can tell you that because every single person has played their role so wonderfully, I'm a big advocate of joint families if everyone is nice. Now, will everyone be nice? That I don't know. I used to always say, when my brother-in-laws will marry some wife who I don't like, I'm going to get out of the house, because I can't take toxicness at all. But fortunately, both the wives that came in were so lovely that we actually not only live in the same house, but go for holidays together, travel together, do many things together. So I feel like because I won the lottery, I have no right to give advice to anybody else on this topic. How to enroll for the relationship course. Oh, I'm so sorry to inform you, but it was a one-off thing that I tried as an experiment this year, where I did a live course in April called Love Bubble, and then we shifted it for a 3-day course called Love Mastery. And currently, there are about 202 women enrolled in my relationship certification, which is almost a 2-month-long session that is going on. And I don't plan to repeat it, so unfortunately, I don't know when next I will open it up. If I ever do open it up on Instagram, I will definitely share. Oh, so sweet. God bless you. Okay, it's 5:42. I was supposed to leave at 5:30. Clearly, when I meet you, I get carried away with all of you. Love you all so much. Thank you. I better go run, pack, and do whatever I need to do. On that note, loads of love, and next week, Wednesday, I don't know which part of the country I will be in, but wherever I am, I'll try my best to log in for some time, but I'm not making any promises, because in case there's an internet issue, or I'm on flight, or I'm traveling, then there may be a struggle, okay? However, I will try my very best. Love you all. Thank you for coming. Let's quickly take a picture. You know the drill. Whatever you learned today, your biggest takeaway, make sure you put it on your stories, and then I can share it in mine. Ooh, I always find this the scary one. Love you all. Thank you. Bye. Take care.